Russia stands by China on the coronavirus allegation made by US. According to WHO, the cluster was initially reported on 31st of December 2019 when the WHO China country office was informed. The Chinese authorities identified a new type of coronavirus, novel coronavirus NCOV, which was isolated on 7th of January 2020. Laboratory testing was conducted in all suspected cases identified through active case findings and retrospective review. Other respiratory pathogens such as influenza, avian influenza, adenovirus, severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, Middle East respiratory syndrome coronavirus MERS-CoV were ruled out as the cause. The evidence is highly suggestive, according to WHO, that the outbreak is associated with exposure in one seafood market in Wuhan. The market was closed on 1st of January 2020. At this stage, there is no infection among healthcare workers and no clear evidence of humans to human transmission. The Chinese authorities continue their work of intensive surveillance and follow-up measures as well as further epidemiological investigations. Ever since then, EU has deep faith that the Chinese laboratory is the main culprit of the novel coronavirus spread. In the public mind, the origin story of the coronavirus seems well fixed. In late 2019, someone at now world-famous Hunan seafood market in Wuhan was infected with a virus from an animal. The rest is part of an awful history still in the making, with COVID-19 spreading from that first cluster in the capital of Chinese Hubei province to a pandemic that has killed 211,000 people so far. Stock footage of pangolins, a scaly mammal that looks like an anteater, have made it onto news bulletins, suggesting that the animal was the staging post for the virus before it spread to humans. But there is uncertainty among the several aspects of the COVID-19 origin story that scientists are trying hard to unravel, including which species passed it to the human. They are trying hard because knowing how a pandemic starts is the key to stopping the next one. Professor Stephen Turner, head of the Department of Microbiology at Melbourne's Monash University, says what's more likely is that virus originated in bats. Scientists say it is highly likely that the virus came from bats, but first passed to an intermediary animal in the same way that another coronavirus in 2002, SARS outbreak, moved from horseshoe bats to cat-like civets before infecting humans. Professor Edward Holmes of the University of Sydney was a co-author on the Nature study that examined the likely origins of the virus by looking at its genome. On social media, he has stressed that the identity of the species that served as an intermediate host for the virus is still uncertain. A statistical study looked at the characteristics of the virus that evolved to enable it to latch on the human cells. Pangolins were able to develop this characteristic, but so were cats, buffalo, cattle, goats, sheep, and pigeons. Another study claimed to have ruled out pangolins as an intermediary altogether because samples of similar viruses taken from pangolins lacked the chain of amino acids seen in the virus now circulating in humans. The study Holmes worked on suggested that the scenario in which a human at a Wuhan market interacted with an animal that carried the virus was only one potential version of the COVID-19 origin story. Another was the possibility that a descendant of the virus jumped into humans and then adapted it as it was passed from human to human. On the other hand, Russia and the US is wrong to accuse China of being responsible for the severity of coronavirus outbreak without providing proof. The US is wrong to accuse China of being responsible for the coronavirus outbreak without providing proof, Russian President Vladimir Putin spokesman said in the latest sign of pivot away from the Washington and towards Beijing. For more current affair news, subscribe News 786, like and share. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Sunday said there was significant amount of evidence suggesting that the virus emerged from a state of laboratory in Wuhan, which has conducted research into bat coronavirus. Later on Sunday, President Donald Trump said he believed that the horrible mistake in China was the cause of pandemic, though neither he nor Pompeo presented any evidence of their claims. The comments came after the US top spy agency said last Thursday that it had determined the virus was not man-made, but was still investigating whether it was caused by an accident at the laboratory in Wuhan. Pompeo started a briefing on Wednesday by laying out a timeline of the Chinese government action, saying that it had silenced those early warning about the virus. He repeated the US allegation that It's still refusing to share virus samples or details about the start of the pandemic and on patient zero, the virus victim. And he said other countries are starting to see it the US way. At one point, the Secretary of State appeared confused over whether he was claiming the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which caused the COVID-19 diseases, was deliberately engineered or escaped as a result of the lab accident. But when he was reminded that the US intelligence had issued a formal statement nothing the opposite, and the scientists' consensus was that the virus was not man-made or genetically modified. Donald Trump made a similar unsupported claim on Thursday, saying he was privy to evidence of the pandemic began in the Chinese lab but was not permitted to share it. On the same day, Pompeo said in a radio interview, "We don't know if it came from a Wuhan Institute of Virology. We don't know if it emanated from the wet market or yet some other place. We don't know those answers." But Sunday afternoon, according to researchers at Johns Hopkins University, the US had confirmed 113,457 coronavirus cases and more than 66,000 deaths worldwide. There have been nearly 3.5 million cases confirmed, and more than 245,000 people had died. Beset by criticism of its response to the outbreak and management of the ensuing public health crisis, the Trump administration has sought to focus blame on China. Beijing has rejected the suggestion that the virus could have escaped from the laboratory, but Chinese authorities have not allowed foreign experts, including investigators from the World Health Organization, to take part in investigation into the origins of the virus, nor have they shared samples taken from the wild animals at the Wuhan livestock market where they claim the outbreak began. In 2018, US diplomats and scientists raised concerns in State Department cables about the safety standards in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.